Good evening and welcome back to another episode of The Longing, where today we are going to be continuing to read The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. And if we happen to get to a good point, we will reverse the time again, because we are getting a little bit low on spare time. So, let's get going. Dickon stood up on the grass and slowly went through a carefully practical but simple series of muscle exercises. Colin watched them with widening eyes. He could do a few while he was sitting down. Presently he did a few gently while he stood upon his already steadied feet. Mary began to do them also. Sut, who was watching the performance, became much disturbed and left his branch and hopped about restlessly because he could not do them too. From that time the exercises were part of the day's duties as much as the magic was. It became possible for both Colin and Mary to do more of them each time they tried, and such appetites were the results that, but for the basket Dickon put down behind the bush each morning when he arrived, they would have been lost. But the little oven in the hollow and Mrs. Sorby's bounties were so satisfying that Mrs. Medlock and the nurse and Dr. Craven became mystified again. You can trifle with your breakfast and seem to disdain your dinner if you are full to the brim with roasted eggs and potatoes, and richly frothed new milk, and oatcakes and buns and heather honey and clotted cream. "They are eating next to nothing," said the nurse. "They'll die of starvation if they can't be persuaded to take some nourishment. And yet see how they look." "Look?" exclaimed Mrs. Medlock indignantly. I'm moithered to death with them. They're a pair of young Satans, bursting their jackets one day, and the next turning up their noses at the best meals cook can tempt them with. Not a mouthful of that lovely young fowl and bread sauce did they set a fork into yesterday, and the poor woman fair invented a pudding for 'em, and back it's sent. She almost cried. She's afraid she'll be blamed if they starve themselves to their graves." Dr. Craven came and looked at Colin long and carefully. He wore an extremely worried expression when the nurse talked with him, and showed him the almost untouched tray of breakfast she had saved for him to look at. But it was even more worried when he sat down by Colin's sofa and examined him. He had been called to London on business and had not seen the boy for nearly 2 weeks. When young things begin to gain health, they gain it rapidly. The waxen tinge had left. Colin's skin and a warm rose showed through it. His beautiful eyes were clear, and the hollows under them and in his cheeks and temples had filled out. His once dark, heavy locks had begun to look as if they sprang healthily from his forehead, and were soft and warm with life. His lips were fuller and of a normal colour. In fact, as an imitation of a boy who was a confirmed invalid, he was a disgraceful sight. Dr. Craven held his chin in his hand and thought him over. "I am sorry to hear that you do not eat anything," he said. "That will not do. You will lose all you have gained, and you have gained amazingly. You ate so well a short time ago." "I told you it was an unnatural appetite," answered Colin. Mary was sitting on her stool nearby, and she suddenly made a very queer sound which she tried so violently to repress that she ended by almost choking. "What is the matter?" said Dr. Craven, turning to look at her. Mary became quite severe in her manner. "It was something between a sneeze and a cough," she replied with reproachful dignity, "and it got into my throat." "But," she said afterward to Colin, "I couldn't stop myself. It just burst out because all at once I couldn't help remembering that last big potato you ate, and the way your mouth stretched when you bit through that thick lovely crust with jam and clotted cream on it." "Is there any way in which those children can get food secretly?" Dr. Craven inquired of Mrs. Medlock. "There's no way unless they dig it out of the earth or pick it off the trees," Mrs. Medlock answered. "They stay out in the grounds all day and see no one but each other. And if they want anything different to eat from what's sent up to them, they need only ask for it." "Well," said Dr. Craven, "so long as going without food agrees with them, we need not disturb ourselves. The boy is a new creature. So is the girl, said Mrs. Medlock. She's begun to downright pretty since she's filled out and lost her ugly little sour look. Her hair's grown thick and healthy looking, and she's got a bright colour. The glummest, ill-natured little thing she used to be, and now her and Master Colin laugh together like a pair of crazy young ones. Perhaps they're growing fat on that? Perhaps they are, said Dr. Craven. Let them laugh. And with that, we're actually going to come to the end of the reading portion, because I do need to, quite nicely actually, do the fire reversal trick. So let's get that done. Back to Zarathustra to reverse our time, because we are getting a little bit too close to the end of the available time for my liking. So yeah, we are going to just have to run through this book a few times backwards, with the blue fire going and all things being nice. So it seems we can get maybe 10 days every cycle, if we're lucky. 9 to 10 days. Yeah, 10 days. So we should be able to get back to the earliest point we can. Actually more than 10 days. We actually got through the book twice there. So yeah, we should be able to get back to the earliest point possible, the 35th day, without too much trouble. And I don't think I need to rush on this one, just because, well, we've managed to get enough time for a while, and we've still got a fair amount of the episode left. A quarter of it left, nearly, as well. So we will be absolutely fine. Just to be sure, I will speed a little bit along. Don't want to be giving it up to too much chance. Well, not chance, but too close to the end. Yeah, easily done. We only need to get another 5 days. Not a problem. So this should be the last one for a few more episodes before we need to reverse the fire again. It might even be the last time we need to reverse the fire before we finish the secret garden, if we're lucky. I can't remember exactly how many pages are left, but there is a chance that we are actually done with the book fairly soon. I may actually go ahead and check that. "36 days. So we have 65 pages left, which means we should be able to do it in the next 10 days, roughly. So roughly 10 more episodes and we'll be done with what's it called? With the secret garden. Oh, excuse my yawn and stretch there. That was a bit unexpected. Just sort of came out of the blue for me. And got me. But more progress has been made. Gradual, but we are making progress. But anyway, thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you all have a wonderful morning, evening, afternoon or night, no matter what time of day it is. I hope you all have a wonderful one of it. And as always, we will be back tomorrow for more of The Longing. Goodbye.